Video will start with our chapter 11, transportation in animals and plants. So we have learned in the earlier chapters that food, water, and organisms are the water and oxygen. Sorry, are the very important part of a living organism for it to survive. They need to transport all these things, that is food, water, and oxygen, to each and every part of their body. Now, how in this chapter we'll look into how this transportation is done of this food, water, and oxygen in animals as well as in plants. Okay, so animals need to transport, other than food, water, and oxygen, animals also need to transport the waste that is produced in their body uh, to that part of the body from where it can be removed. Now, how all these are done? So, now in this figure, you can see that this is how our transportation. This is how our body looks from inside, which contains these blood vessels. These blue and red color uh, tubes are called as blood vessels, and this is the heart, which is the organ which pumps blood to each and every part of our body. So this heart, vein, and artery. So these are the three parts of our body which help to transport the uh, useful materials as well as waste materials in our body. So they function to transport substances, and together they are called as the circulatory system. So these three organs together, these three parts together, they form our circulatory system. So in the circulatory system, first we learn about the part or the substance or the liquid called blood. Everybody knows blood. But what is there inside the blood? How does the blood help to transport the things? That we'll study in detail. Now, when we get a cut, when there is any cut in any part of our body, the blood comes out. But what is blood? Blood is a fluid. Fluid means a liquid which flows in our blood vessels. Blood vessels are these two blood vessels, vein and artery are called the blood vessels. Okay. Now, the blood transports substances like digested food from small intestine to other part of the body. It carries oxygen from the lungs to the cells of the body, and it also transports waste for removal from the body. So these are the three functions of the blood. First one is that it transports the digested food from the small intestine to other body part. Second function is it carries oxygen from the lungs to the cells of the body. And the third function it transports waste from removal from the body. Okay. Now, how does the blood carry various substances? Now, in the blood, there is a fluid called plasma. Okay. And in the plasma, there are different types of cells which help in the transportation and doing other functions also. So we'll look into which are these different cells which are present in the blood in the plasma. Plasma is inside the blood. Now, plasma contains the first type of cell is the red blood cells, which we commonly know it as RBC. Now, it contains a red pigment called hemoglobin. As we know, we have studied that in plants there is a green color pigment called chlorophyll, which gives green color to the plants part of the plants. Similarly, this red color pigment called hemoglobin, it gives red color to our blood. Hemoglobin binds with oxygen, it combines with oxygen, it helps in the mixing of oxygen in the blood and transport it to all the parts of the body and ultimately to all the cells. Now, it is difficult to transport oxygen or to provide oxygen to each and every part of the body efficiently. That is, efficiently means in proper amount how much it is required if there is less amount of hemoglobin in the blood of our body. Then the next is the presence of hemoglobin makes blood appear red in color. Blood cells. Next, we'll study about the next type of cell that is present, that is the white blood cells. So the white blood cells help to fight against germs that enter our body. We know that many foreign particles, which we call as the germs of different infections or diseases, try to enter into our body. But the white blood cells do not allow them to enter into our body. They fight against them and throw them out of our body. Okay, this is the function of the white blood cells. Now, next, the third type of cell that is found in our body are the platelets. Okay, so what is the function of platelets? The platelets form a clot. You can see here it is written a dark red clot. So, when you get a cut or when you get injured in any part of your body, you can see after some time a thick, hard blood gets hardened there. Okay, and that is a clot which is formed by the cell called platelets. Okay, so the platelets helps to stop the blood that is coming out of the body by forming a hard clot on the outer part of that cut. Okay, so these were the three different types of cells which do different functions, which are present in the blood in the fluid called plasma. Okay, these three different types of cells are present in the fluid called plasma, which is found inside the blood. Now, next we'll study about the two different types of blood vessels, that is veins and arteries. So, what are their functions? So, there are different types of blood vessels in the body. You know that during inhalation, when we take in air, the oxygen fills the lungs, right? Now, this oxygen which has filled in the lungs has to be transported to each and every part of our body. Now, who does that? Also, the blood picks up the waste material, including carbon dioxide from the cell. Okay, so the oxygen which we are inhaling, that is to be taken out to each and every part, and similarly, the carbon dioxide that is produced after the breakdown of glucose, that is to be carried from those parts and sent to the lungs. So the both the things are to be done. The oxygen is also to be transported. The carbon dioxide is also to be transported. So this blood has to go back to the heart to transport to lungs for removal of carbon dioxide. Yes. So from all the body parts, the blood has to collect the carbon dioxide and take it to the heart, and then from the heart it is sent to the lungs, and from the lungs it is then thrown out from our nose. So for taking in oxygenated blood and for taking in carbon dioxide rich blood, two different blood vessels are required. And for that we have two types of blood vessels. One is arteries and other is veins. Now which blood vessel carries which type of blood? Okay, arteries carry oxygen rich blood from the heart to all parts of the body. Okay, so arteries, they carry the blood from the heart to each and every part of the body. Now, since the blood flow is rapid, since the blood flows very fast with high pressure, the arteries are thick and elastic, because when the blood is flowing with high pressure, the arteries should not break or should not tear. So for that, they are elastic. So they stretch. When the pressure of the blood increases, the arteries expand and stretch. Because if they are stiff and hard, it will break and the blood will come out of the arteries and it will get spread on that body part. So that is why the arteries have to be very thick, have to be thick and elastic. Okay. Now, next is in activity 11.1, they have explained you what is a pulse. When you keep your or your finger, index finger and your middle finger on the wrist, you can feel a beat, and that beat we call it as a pulse. And that beat is felt because your blood is flowing very fast through the arteries. Okay, through your arteries it can be felt. So that is why we can feel that beat, and the number of beats that we can count in a minute is called as our pulse rate. Okay, so pulse is that beat and pulse rate is the number of beats that we can count in a minute. blood vessels. One is the arteries, which carries the oxygenated blood from the heart to each and every part of our body. It is thick and it is elastic. Then we studied that what is a pulse. Pulse is the beat that we can feel when we keep our two index finger and our middle finger on the wrist, and that beat we feel because of the flow of the blood through our artery, and the number of beats we can count in 1 minute, that we call it as the pulse rate. Okay. Now next is that another type of blood vessel, which is the veins. So veins are the vessels which carry carbon dioxide rich blood from all parts of the body back to the heart. So it is doing just the opposite work. Yes, artery is carrying oxygenated blood from the heart to each and every part, and the vein is carrying the carbon dioxide rich blood from each part of the body back to the heart. The veins have thin walls. So the walls of the veins are made up of tubes which are thin, and there are valves present in the veins which allow the blood to flow only towards the heart. Okay, so the vein has an opening in the heart which opens, which is called as a valve, which opens only when the blood from each and every part of the body comes through that vein and wants to enter into the heart. Only at that time that valve opens, otherwise it is always closed. Okay, so in this diagram 11.3, they have shown you how the blood flows, how the oxygenated blood comes in from the lungs to the heart, then from the heart through the arteries it goes to each and every part. Now this one artery which comes out of from the heart, it cannot reach to each and every part of our body. So what is done? This artery is being divided into thin tubes, into thin tubes, into smaller tubes, which then goes to each and every part of our body, and so each and every part of our body receives the oxygenated blood. Now after that oxygen is used by each and every part of our body, the carbon dioxide which is generated after the decomposition of glucose, that carbon dioxide is then taken by these capillaries, and then they join back again into the vein which is connected to our heart, so that all the carbon dioxide rich blood goes into that vein, and then it goes into the heart, and from the heart then it goes into the lungs, and from the lungs that carbon dioxide is thrown out of our body. So what are capillaries? On reaching the tissues, they divide further into extremely thin tubes called capillaries, and these capillaries join to form the veins which empty into the heart. Okay. Now next part of the circulatory system is the heart. We studied about the two parts, that is the blood vessels, the two blood vessels, veins and arteries. Now next part is our heart. Now heart is an organ which beats continuously to act as a pump to transport blood which carries other substances or with it, right? So heart is a pump which works continuously non-stop without any break, right? And the heart is located in the chest cavity with its lower tip slightly tilted towards the left. So its heart's lower part is slightly slanting towards the left. That is why we can feel our heart on the left hand side. And it is said that when we put put our finger, close our fingers into our palm, the size that we get of that fist, it is the size of our heart. Okay, that is the size of our heart. Now, there is a question in everybody's mind that if the oxygen rich blood and the carbon dioxide rich blood, can they both mix with each other? No. Why? Because the heart is divided into four chambers, two at the top and two at the bottom. Okay. the bottom. The two chambers at the top, they are called as the upper chambers are called atria, and the lower chambers are called ventricles. Okay, so this partition, this division helps to avoid the mixing of the carbon dioxide rich blood and oxygen rich blood. So in this figure 11.4, you can see that there is a valve. This is the opening which does not allow the blood to get mixed. So the upper part we call it as, on the right it is called right atrium, and on the left it is called as left atrium. Similarly, the lower chambers, on the right one it is called right ventricle, and on the left hand side it is called left ventricle. So this partition completely separating the two halves. So this also separate the two parts. Okay. So these are the four chambers because of which the two different types of blood, that is one carrying carbon dioxide and other carrying oxygen, they don't mix with each other. Now the next topic is, what is a heartbeat? Okay, so heartbeat is what it is, it is the contraction and relaxation of the heart muscles. So the heart is a muscular organ. So when that heart muscles contract and relax, but they do it in a rhythmic form. That uh, is a pattern for it. It is not that two times it contracts, one times it relax, then two times relax, one time contract. So these, it is not the way it does. Like it does in a particular pattern. That is first contraction, then relaxation, then contraction again, then relaxation. So it is being done rhythmically. There's a rhythm in it. There's a pattern that is to be followed. And this contraction, that is rhythmic contraction followed by relaxation, is called as a heartbeat. So that we call it as a heartbeat. A rhythmic contraction and relaxation is of the heart muscles. We call it as a heartbeat. Okay, now this heartbeat you can feel when you keep your hand on the left side of our chest, because as we saw earlier in this chapter, that why it is on the left, because our heart's lower part is little bit tilted to the left. Now that this is the way how we can feel our heartbeat, by keeping a hand on our left side of the chest. But the doctors, what do the doctors, when we are sick, we go to the doctor and the doctor puts a stethoscope on our chest, and what does he hear in his ears? He hears the sound of our heartbeat. As because what does the stethoscope do? It amplifies. It makes the loud sound loud, the heartbeat sound loud, so that he can hear clearly in his ears that how is your heart beating? Is it normal, or is there any problem in the rhythm with which it is beating? So a doctor uses the stethoscope for what? To amplify the sound of the heart, to make the sound louder. Amplify means to make the sound louder. Now just we'll look into what that stethoscope, different parts of the stethoscope. First is the chest piece. The chest piece is the part which the doctor keeps on our chest, that carries a sensitive diaphragm. Then the two earpieces, the which he keeps in his ear so that he can hear the sound. And this chest piece and the earpiece are joined by a tube. Okay, so the three parts of the stethoscope are the chest piece, the earpiece, and the tube. So this is how a stethoscope looks like. Everybody has seen a stethoscope, right? Now here in this activity 11.2, they have shown you, they have explained you how to make a stethoscope using a funnel and a balloon. Okay, so you can make this and try to hear that heartbeat with amplified sound. Okay, so hope you all have understood what a heartbeat is. So in this table, you can write down your name, your heartbeat while you are resting, your pulse rate while you are resting, and your heartbeat and pulse rate after you come from anywhere from running or doing some, after doing some heavy exercise, what it is. So that you will come to know what is the difference between the heartbeat and the pulse rate when you are resting and running.